Chapter 5. A New Member of the Family. Over Canterbury, Commander Pott insisted on circling the tall wall of the cathedral, so that the jackdaws and the pigeons flew out of their nooks and crannies, squawking and cooing with fright and excitement, and then they headed on over to the trees and woods, taking a shortcut away from the crowded Dover Road towards the distant majesty of Dover Castle, with its Union Jack flying from the topmost tower. And of course, at that speed, in minutes, they were over the castle. And again, Commander Pott insisted on circling round so that the family and the Chitty Bang Bang, for the matter of that, could have a good look at all of the soldiers drilling on the square inside the castle walls, looked up, much to the rage of their sergeant major and to the sentries, too. And between you and me, I think Chitty Bang Bang was lucky to get away without being shot at by the soldiers, because, after all, she had no proper aircraft markings, only her Gen 2 registration plates, and for all the soldiers knew, she might have been some new kind of foreign aeroplane come to attack the castle, or even a flying bomb, which was really quite what she looked like. But all went well, and they flew up the coast, looking for a place to land to have their picnic beside the sparkling blue sea. But everywhere, Sergeant Margaret's Bay, Walmard, Deal, Sandwich, Ramsgate, all the beaches were crowded with families who had had the same idea as the Pott family, and Chitty Bang Bang's passengers became more and more gloomy as they saw the beautiful sands with their bathers and paddlers and shrimpers and rock pools that were certainly crawling with exciting crabs and eels and valuable shells, all crowded with rival holidaymakers. And they all longed for a bath and to unpack the bulging picnic basket full of Mimsy's delicious goodies. Then a curious thing happened. The steering wheel actually twisted, in Commander Pott's hand, as if Chitty Bang Bang realized their disappointment and was taking control herself. And do you know what? Chitty Bang Bang turned away from the coast and soared away over the English Channel straight out to sea. The family held their breath with excitement, and Commander Pott wrestled with the wheel and began to look rather nervous. But then the green light started to blink on the dashboard, and now instead of saying pull down, as it had said before, it said push up. And gently, Commander Pott pushed up the little silver lever, and gently, Chitty Bang Bang began to lose height, and the plane softly downwards. "Heavens!" cried Mimsy. "She's going to drop us into the sea. Now we are really in a mess. Get ready to swim, everyone. The cushions will float. Each one hang on to a cushion. The Deal lifeboat will see us, and if we keep afloat, we'll be all right." "Don't worry, Mimsy darling," shouted Commander Pott against the roar of the wind. "It'll be all right. I think I know what Chitty Bang Bang has got in mind. Look where we're headed for. Those are the Goodwin Sands. Acres of beautiful sand that we get uncovered during a low tide like this. Why, in summer, they even have a football match on the sands. Dover and Deal play with each other and get the game over before the tide comes in. Then they row away in boats. And there's the famous South Goodwin lightship. It's got one of the loudest foghorns in the world, and a great revolving light to warn ships away. See the masts of the sunken wrecks sticking up alongside of the edge of the sands? Probably more ships have been sunk on those sands, from Roman times on, than on any other dangerous rock or reefs or sands or shoals in the world. All through the ages it's been a regular graveyard for ships." "Any chance of finding treasure?" asked Jeremy excitedly. "I'm afraid there's not a hope," said Commander Pott sadly. whenever there's a shipwreck on the good ones, particularly on the dark, foggy nights, when of course most of the wrecks happen, wreck burglars, they have been known as wreckers since olden times, swarm out from the coast in their sailing boats. They don't use motorboats so as to be as silent as possible and not warn the men on the lightship who might otherwise radio for the Royal Navy cutter or the MTB to come out from Dover and arrest the wreckers and put a guard on the boat, the wreck. Those wreckers come slipping softly out and steal everything that they can find. They just simply strip the wrecked ship of all of its cargo and everything movable and then silently steal away before the dawn. So then, when the official salvage craft and tugs pull out from Dover in the morning to save what they can and perhaps even try to pull the ship off the sands, they find an empty house, so to speak. The wreckers, the sea burglars, have stripped her as clean as a plucked chicken, and of course, when the police go hunting along the coast for the wreckers, no one knows anything about it. And there isn't a sign of the loot because it's all been rushed off inland to hideouts by the wreckers. Lorries that have been called up secretly. That's how it goes. Just the same as in the bad old days when the wreckers used to shift buoys and the warning lights at night to guide ships under the shoals and the rocks. That was centuries ago. But the rascals are still at it. Dangerous work, of course, putting out from the coast in a sloop or a cutter in a thick fog or a storm. But these wreck burglars are tough, bad men, and they're ready to take a chance in exchange for a fat cargo of fine meat and butter from Denmark, or radios and television sets from Germany, or even sometimes bars of gold being shipped over to an English bank. While Commander Pott had been telling these exciting things, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang had been planning gently down towards the big expanse of beautiful golden sand lapped by the soft blue ripples of the English Channel, and fringed by the masts and the half-sunken hulls of the wrecks that show up at low tide. The crew of the bright red-painted lightship came up on deck and waved excitedly to them as they soared low overhead, and then, as the green light on the dashboard went on winking and Commander Pott gently took his foot off the accelerator, the wheels automatically lowered themselves into position again, and they came in to land on a hard, flat, golden surface. The aerocar ran a little away on the sand, and then as Commander Pott put on the brakes, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang came to a gentle stop at the edge of the sea. And once the red light on the dashboard showed up again, and now it said push up. No, idiot, this time. Commander Pott pushed up the little silver lever, and there came a same low hum at the front, and back wings slowly folded back to become mudguards again, and the big propeller and the generator out front had slipped back until the two halves of the radiator closed over them. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang gave a last two big sneezes and two soft bangs. Then Commander Pott switched off the engine, and there was a perfectly good gleaming green car sitting quietly on a huge sandbank in the middle of the sea. The whole family let out a big whew of relief and excitement and piled out of the magic car on the warm sand. Then, even before they got into their bathing things and began exploring all of the family of one, went up, patted on Chitty Chitty Bang Bang's warm silver bonnet, just as if she'd been alive, and they all said, "Thank you, dear Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. You're a real marvel." And do you know, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang seemed to let out a long snort, metallic sigh of contentment, which I expect was really only a little steam escaping from the hot radiator, and her big gleaming headlights seemed to dip slightly in modesty and shyness, just as Jemima's eyes do when she's complimented on doing particularly well in her lessons, or her dance class, or singing a song, or Jeremy's when he wins a prize for lessons or games. Then the whole family made a dash to change into their bathing things, and after they had all swum about like dolphins and clambered about among the wrecks, where Jeremy found some quite interesting bits of machinery, and Jemima discovered an old compass that Commander Potts said he could easily clean up and repair. They sat down around Mimsy's hamper in the middle of the sands, and between them they ate up every single hard-boiled egg, every single cold sausage, and every single strawberry jam puff. Then, happy and contented, they all lay down in the sunshine, and drowsy and full of good things, and really quite exhausted with all the excitements of the day. One by one they dozed off for a little rest before doing some more swimming and hunting for treasures. But, no one noticed that the tide was creeping in over the sands. No one noticed that the masts of the wrecks were getting lower in the water. No one heard the glug, glug, glug as the sea quietly, softly flowed into the half-sunken hulls of the wrecked ships. And no one, not one of the dozing families, noticed that the wheels of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang were slowly, inch by inch, being submerged into the incoming tide. No one realized that soon, very, very soon, the whole family, Commander Pot, Mimsy, Jeremy, and Jemima, and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, who by now was really a member of the family too, would be marooned out in the middle of the sea, threatened with mortal danger.